Good morning, everybody, ladies and gentlemen, and colleagues. On behalf of the Moravian Museum, allow me to welcome you in Brno to the first STEP conference, the first international student conference organized by the Moravian Museum. How I said, for us, this is the first attempt to organize a student conference. Although our cooperation with universities and students, mainly in Brno, takes place regularly in our work for a long time. Museum employees give lectures at universities. They supervise student theses, etc. At the same time, students can do university practice in the museum. And we are also open to students with the Erasmus Plus program. In this way, students gain their first professional experience with us, but also the students' fresh perspective can be innovative for our museum work. I believe that this student conference will be inspiring for us and of course for you too. You can start your professional career here. You can also establish professional and friendly relationships here, which are important for building a career. And at the end, let me thank the organizers of this conference, my colleagues from Ethnographic Institute, and especially to Barbara Osagova, who came up with the idea of organizing of the conference. I firmly believe that this first year is a starting tradition in our museum, and it will not be the last student conference that we organize in Moravian Museum. And thank you that you came to Brno and enjoyed the conference and the program that my colleagues prepared for you, not only here, but also in our buildings, museum exposition, etc. Thank you.
Dear ladies and gentlemen, dear students, Mr. Director, dear colleagues, I am glad that it was possible to organize this international student conference in the Moravian Museum. You will now spend 2 days in Brno, where you will have the opportunity to meet other colleagues and hear what they do, how they design their research, and what results they achieve. It is certainly an important goal of conference to find out or learn about the work of colleagues from universities, but not forget that the establishment of professional contacts and new friendships is also a quite important goal of the conference. I think another important goal of the conference could be that you use our collections for study in the future, or that we meet as partners in a research project sometime in the future. For me, I can say that I am very curious about that the new generation of students is like, what questions pose them, and how they approach research in the field or in the archives. I am looking forward to your reports, and I believe that you will also enjoy your exhibitions. I think you goes to my colleague Barbara Osagova, who is the main organizer of the event. Thank you, Barbara. And I would also like to thank another colleagues who participate in the preparation and implementation of the event. Finally, I would like to thank the sponsors who made this student conference possible. Credolin Company, Education CZ, Boss Timer Company, Perislandia, Bellinghouse Company, Denstaff Group Company, Mali Family Found, Smart Press Limited Company, publisher Martina Polevichová. Now I open this conference and then over the schedule to my colleague Barbara Kosaku.
So we start with the first presenter, who came from the Charles University, Emil Adamec. Please follow my colleague over there, and you can open your presentation.
Dear ladies and gentlemen, dear colleagues, dear organizer, I'm very glad to be here with you in 2 days, and I would like to introduce my project, which is in the field of anthropology and cultural anthropology and ethnology. My name is Emil Adamec. I'm living in Hong Kong, and I'm studying doctoral study in Brno University of Technology and Architecture. And also I study classical archaeology and ethnology in Charles University. I was in Erasmus in Bologna, and usually my profession is sculpture. I make sculpture around the world. That's why it's my project. It's called Acupuncture of Earth, and this project is very broad, and it's for the purpose to healing our planet Earth. And because this project is so huge, I would like to propose the international team, which is connected different areas of the world. For example, the famous archaeologist and anthropologist Tomás Barrientos from Guatemala, Yanis Mikais from Creta, Watson Chede, very famous archaeologist from India, and Li Qingwei is the famous archaeologist and anthropologist from China. And of course, myself as a possible student of these experts. The downstairs, you see the names, Professor Petr Pamuk, Dr. Filip Frankovic, which is my consultant and supervisor in the field of classical archaeology, which is in the team of Creta, Knossos Temple. Another consultant is Petr Janeček and Adam Horálek from Charles University in the field of ethnology and cultural anthropology. The third one is Josef Laskovička in the field of earth science and geoinformatics. The last one is Dr. Tomáš Holek from the computer science and development of computer games. My research objective is analyze architectural landscapes. That's why I focus as a sculptor for the landscape and wants to connect different disciplines. I would like to restore the Renaissance way of the teaching of persons to know many different fields. And this is this project, how it looks like. As you see, this project is connected with different parts, and these parts are reconnected in the different part of the world. In the same places, I make more than 120 sculptures around the world, monumental sculptures with different parts, which they are connected together. Here is a very short movie to explain. There is another slide, which is also locally based. For example, huge project in China or Silesia, which is connected these individual sculptures together and make big spirals. Here is the short movie from a few years ago, which I made it and explain this project, how it's about 8 years ago. So the main points is two important points which they are connected to the world, and the image what you see as a represent my sculptures. because my sculpture is like the acupuncture needles with the Chinese medicine, right? They are connected vertically, horizontally, and also vertically. So this is a short presentation. And this is also related with Taoist philosophy because I studied Taoism in China, and also related with this sculpture tourism. I will jump to another presentation. And this is how it looks like. I traveled around the world with sculptures and took it in the public place. These sculptures are permanently exhibited in the different part of the world. And the people who know this project, they know that many of these sculptures are connected, not only by light, but also across the whole globe, right? In Australia, for example, so at this moment is around plus minus 120 pieces. Plus minus in 5 continents. Africa is still not covered. And this project, I also presented many times in many international conferences in the Hollywood style, as you see, to explain that it's also include the public, not only the scientists and not only the researchers. So in this exciting way, I want to present it to explore that this project is for everybody, not only for the schools and for researchers. This is, for example, one of the moon mirrors in Urumqi. This is the way how it works. In Taiwan, very hard school, the night, because you can use the light for this kind of way. I will jump it out to the next one because of the time. So as you see, this is how it looks like, just 4 pieces, just for your imagination what it's about. It's abstract and also figurative work, monumental size. This one is, for example, in Urumqi, in the western China. I have also skewing in Greece in Tassos marble. This is in Germany, or this is in Key West in America from Mahatma Woods, the last one. So this project is simple one or very complicated one, as you wish. And this point is not connected only my sculpture, but also archaeological places, geoparks, the monuments, and so on. 2 weeks ago, I had a conference in Hong Kong, which I presented in the Earth Science Faculty, the UNESCO project of connection of sculptures and geoparks. So this is one of the few slides which was presented in the Geographical Department of Hong Kong University, Chinese University in Hong Kong. And this is about to implement sculptures in the geoparks. As you know, the geoparks, we have many around the world, but they don't include any art, any sculptures, anything. So this is my project to include. For example, there's few examples in the world, for example, in England, in China, in Hong Kong, this is where I'm based, to connect together the art and geological landscapes. Also, it's famous in South Korea, in the Jeju Island, or in Greece, the very famous one with the patriotic woods. It's connected with sculptures. Same way in Norway, or again China in the famous mountains. So what I want to do, I want to change the simple tourism to the pilgrimage, to make the tourism very spiritual way, not just only mass tourism to see the places. Also, this project is connected because I'm also studying classical archaeology, the archaeological locations. My project is to map these locations and restore these archaeological places in the way how it was. Which, as you know, is impossible today because of the Athens and Venetian Charter. It's forbid this kind of things, but this is one of my proposals. How it looks today and how will it look, how can it possible looks in the future. This is the example from Corinth and Syracuse, for example. Another way in Rome, same way, not even in the ruins. Okay, 2 minutes less. I will just go very fast. Thank you very much. So this is in the field of archaeology, this kind of project. Some methodological approach, we can read fastly, is also to visual anthropology and so on. And most important, interdisciplinary collaboration includes many different kind of fields. I'm also the computer developer. I make, this is the last stage in the Earth Science faculty. I make the applications which is used in the GIS system. Vision for future. This is the literature what I use for my research. And in conclusion, you see the few points for this project. So if you have any questions, I have foundation in Hong Kong, you can contact me or you can ask me today or anytime. There is my email or inquiries. Thank you very much for your attention.
Thank you. We will start the discussion after each session. So please, let's see if you can help.
It's a little problem. It's okay. Okay.
Hello, ladies and gentlemen, I'm Paul Mutkiewicz, student of the Anthropology and Baltic Studies at the Mickiewicz University. And I'm very thankful for the possibility to be here with you and present my current research. In today's presentation, I'm going to outline an idea of my research on cross-border farming on Polish-Lithuanian borderland and present to you a couple of my first findings. And this research I'm conducting under funding of the research of the funding from the Mickiewicz University. So maybe at the start I will outline that cross-border farming is the practice of farming on agricultural land that's located in a country other than the farm of the farmer farming the land. So that means that I'm researching the Polish farmers who have farm estates in Poland, and they cultivate land in Poland and also in Lithuania. And so, firstly, I'm going about this problem. I'm going to outline three anthropological perspectives on researching borderlands. First one is cultural borderland, where two or more cultures meet and local inhabitants and construct identities. Second one is symbolic borderland, and symbolic borderland is borderland where researchers are interested in symbolic boundaries being constructed between ethnic groups. And third type of borderland is territorial borderland, which is area affected by the political borders, and the researchers examine how people function in political borderland and how political border is constructed and negotiated between different actors. So in my research, I'm focusing especially on territorial and symbolic perspectives on borderlands. So it's important to present you some of the characteristics of Polish-Lithuanian borderland. The Polish-Lithuanian borderland was borderland that a border that was created about 100 years ago in a result of military conflict. And this is borderland inhabited on both sides by Poles and Lithuanians. And this is an open border because it is a border between two Schengen countries, Schengen agreement countries. So it means that people can trespass this border at any point. So it means that this borderland, this particular borderland, is very economically active because of a lot of transborder businesses, and because of that, the people are traveling and shopping there. But on the other hand, stereotypes dominate between Poles and Lithuanians, and one of these stereotypes is linguistic stereotype, when Poles call Lithuanian language Ekrusong, for example. So it's also important to briefly outline the history of this practice, and this practice came into existence with implementation of Schengen Agreement in both countries, Poland and Lithuania, and that meant that from this 2007-2008, people can free trespass this border, and this meant that the green crossings of border were established. So the people started then to discover areas across the border and get knowledge of poor condition of Lithuanian land in borderland areas. And each year from the 2008, more and more farmers have been leasing land in Lithuania, and that only came to some obstacles for this practice. Came in the 2020 when the COVID pandemic started, and when borders were closed. So then these farmers couldn't trespass freely the border, but in the same time they managed to negotiate border regime even from their peripheral perspective, and they sent a letter to both countries' ministers of agriculture.
A lot
of letters, and with that letters they gained access to their land in Lithuania on special principles, and now they are participants of nationwide farmers' protest in Poland. So the theoretical framework of my research consists of economic anthropology, in which I want to describe this phenomenon, to find determinants and conditions and describe practice of this cross-border farming. In this economic anthropology, I'm following the footsteps of Anna Krzyżaka, a Polish researcher in economic anthropology, but especially in agriculture sector. And in this decision making, I would like to look at the whole environment involved in deciding of why to lease the fields and how to cultivate them. So as Krzyżak proved, decision making is a multi-layered process involving many actors and many layers of knowledge. And the third one is I want to analyze what is the impact of the border on these farm estates. I also want to analyze the informality of this practice because there's no regulation of leasing land in Lithuania for Poles, and there's no state monitoring of cross-border farming. So people only lease land in Lithuania with usage of trust between tenants and tenantries. And only in pandemic times, as I said before, tenants had to obtain certificate of land lease to cross the border, but these certificates were only few sentences long. And there's also some inequalities in agricultural economy in both areas because Lithuania was affected by collectivization of land under the Soviet rule, and in Poland, the farmers could, in communist times, they could cultivate land by owning their own estates, farm estates. So it means that in Lithuania, there's plenty of land to cultivate, and the land is cheaper than in Poland. And what are my findings in economic anthropology? That estates that cultivate land in Lithuania are mid to large size. They focus on raising cattle and working the land to gain its profit. And in conditions, there's environmental condition, financial development, and development in agricultural sector. And so my time is I have only 2 minutes left, so sorry for that. I will get to the political anthropology. This is my other theoretical framework. And in this framework, in this political anthropology, I want to get to know what is the relationship between farmers and state. I also want to know how the farmers shape the border, because they do, and I want to know how. And the last. My final ambition is to answer the question about the influence of ethnicity on this cross-border practice, and vice versa. I want to analyze how this practice influences ethnic relation between Poles and Lithuanians, and So in the end, I see my research in the triangle, really similar to the triangle of these farmers, because these farmers are functioning in the triangle of economics, because they're farming, and politics, because their lives and economic activity is influenced by border, and in ethnicity, because they get often in contact with other with other ethnicity. So thank you very much for listening.
Thank you, Pavel. I just wanted to add that in case I show you this paper with 2 minutes left, you always have the space to finish your thought and everything, so don't get too stressed with these tables, but thanks. The next speakers are Laura Jari and Aurelia Adamczuk from the Adam Mickiewicz University in Poznań. Those speakers have together 20 minutes because of the length of the presentation and because since they are 2 speakers, so thank you. Pavel, please have a seat here in front. Okay, fine. Then I'll start.
All right, it's a pleasure to welcome you all to our presentation. And it's really an honor to be a part of this first conference this year. Now we'll have a slight shift in terms of topic. We move to the Far East cultural studies, and in case anyone finds such topics, as you can see on the slide disturbing, we wanted to make a little warning that we'll cover the topics of gender-based violence, sexual violence, or rape. So these are the themes that required a lot of sensitivity. But as you can see, the title we chose for the topic is Black Box Opened, Cultural Factors and Power Dynamics of Gender-Based Violence in Contemporary Japan. During the presentation, we would like to consider the historical and cultural background of Japanese power hierarchies and how they impact women's position in today's Japan. The case we refer to, the title addresses the breakthrough figure of the Japanese Me Too movement, Shiori Ito. Ito is a Japanese journalist who has experienced sexual violence, fought for justice against the Japanese system, and then described her struggle in the book she called Black Box, starting a wave and helping many Japanese women to regain their voices. The main goal for us today is to analyze, based on that example, the variety of problems linked to gender-based violence against women in Japan. And it all connects with the issue of consent and the hypothetical connections between the contemporary issues and the deeply rooted feudal tradition existing within Japanese society. I would like to briefly introduce Shiori Ito's case and how her resistance towards injustice sparked real legal changes as well in Japanese society. And one could ask why she called her book Black Box and what are we referring to in the title. It appears necessary to comment on it, and in her story, Shiori Ito explained that when it comes to sexual harassment of women, no one really knows what's happening behind the closed doors. As if these cases of rape were black boxes which hold information about what was happening inside, who was interacting with whom and who was hurting whom in which way. Opening the black box, metaphorically, letting people in to see and find the problem needs to be done, and through our analysis of Japanese culture, we would like to create a better understanding of the problem itself.
The timeline of what happened and how it happened is crucial to understand Shiori Ito's determination and her descent from the Japanese system, which is usually not taking victim's side, as we will see in a minute. Shiori Ito meets Noriyuki Yamaguchi at the bar in 2013, where she's working as a waitress, trying to raise money to achieve her long-time dream of becoming a journalist. She is excited to meet him, as he has years of experience in the industry. And everything changes on the marked day when Yamaguchi emails her about a job opportunity. She wants her to come to a meeting, and she's very surprised when she comes to the restaurant, which he knows from his past because he used to live in this neighborhood, and she is surprised that they are meeting without anyone else but the two of them. And they drink alcohol during a meeting when suddenly Shiori Ito blacks out in the bathroom. Yamaguchi takes her to the Sheraton Hotel despite her resistance and willingness to go home while driving the cab. Cameras registered Yamaguchi taking her unconscious to the room and her leaving in the morning. What happens inside the room will be described later as to provide the evidence that this rape was purely hierarchical and motivated by a patriarchal sense of dominance. On our timeline, you can see Shiori Ito's constant battle with the Japanese system, and take a look at two events which are very important. The called off arrestment of Yamaguchi at the airport, which was called off by the chief of the National Police Agency. Shiori Ito never got to find out why the arrest of Yamaguchi was cancelled, but it can be foreseen as it happened because of Yamaguchi's political connections and his higher position. The second essential event is the attempt to settle an agreement between Shiori Ito and the police, as one of the new laws in Japan states that the fee negotiated by the rape victim is paid from the state treasury, not from the rapist's pocket. So lawyers who are supposedly representing the victim in court, they in fact never encourage the victims to do so, and they want them to reach a settlement. And that's why Shiori Ito never agreed to settle an agreement, as she was determined to pledge Yamaguchi guilty. A Tokyo court in December 2019 awarded her with 3.3 million yen plus additional fees in damages for Yamaguchi. However, he stated that he will appeal to this decision. And later, he was claiming that the incident was consensual and the ensuing accusations has damaged his reputation. And thanks to the Shiori Ito's determination, the Japanese definition of rape began to change. Before the whole case, the Japanese law was outdated, as it was still the one from 1907, which was before the Meiji Restoration. Initially, rape was defined as forced sexual intercourse, which meant that prosecutors had to prove that violence or intimidation had occurred or that the victim was incapable of resistance. And rape victims were limited to women only, and the age of consent was 13 at that time. And in 2017, it changed as they reformed the rape laws, expanding the definition to include forced oral and anal intercourse, lengthening sentences, and allowing prosecutions to be conducted without the victim's consent. The definition of rape also has been expanded to include men, and at the same time, it still didn't recognize the problem of victim being unconscious and or unable to say no. In Japan, there was still a functioning legal definition called quasi-rape, which is a sexual intercourse with a woman by taking advantage of loss of consciousness or inability to resist. In United States, for example, the law varies from state to state, with some defining the same crime as second-degree rape or only a sexual assault, and it has been changed in 2023, and this law is currently in effect today, when it defines 8 scenarios in which it is difficult for a victim to formulate, express, or to carry out an intention not to consent. The main reason behind the sexual violence was determined in numerous resources from the field of criminal studies. For our representation, the most important one would be the second type of rape committed out of a will to dominate, as the perpetrator strives to show strength, advantage, and domination over the victim. Most often, such an act is carefully planned well in advance. And it all happened in case of Shiori Ito, as Yamaguchi was trying to prove his status to her numerous times, constantly talking about the work, the people he knew from work, and about his years of experience in the industry. Here, please pay attention to this slide. Shiori Ito states that she was also treating him with respect and using the language reserved for someone in high position who needs and expects respect. Even in the emails that they exchange, Yamaguchi treats her like a little girl that needs his constant guidance in the field of journalistic work. And the whole thing has been obviously planned in advance, as he was taking her to the restaurant where he was recognized, and the proof of them dining here mysteriously disappeared when actually required. In this type of rape, the factor that triggers the perpetrator is the victim's reluctance and lack of consent. When the victim does not show reluctance verbally or non-verbally, the perpetrator may abandon his intentions. This occurred too, as Shiori Ito gained conscious while being raped, leading Yamaguchi to stop.
Thank you. Now a little bit of cultural context. Everything that Laura mentioned before can be understood from the perspective of the Japanese idea of hierarchy, which is quite closely connected to Confucianist ideas. Due to Confucianist way of life, the obedience to people higher in the hierarchy is very crucial, as it refers to collectivistic culture. The whole society or neighborhood can be understood as family, where we always refer to the elders. In Confucianism, there is also the rule of 3 obediences. The 3 obediences instruct that the woman is obligated not only to act on her own initiatives and must submissively obey or follow. First, her father at home before getting married, her husband after getting married, and finally her sons after her husband's death. Addressing the other points written down on our slide, dependency relates to the specific situation and Yamaguchi's cultural connections. His arrest and his association with Abe Shinzo could not only impact the Japanese Prime Minister, but also at the same time reveal how weak the system is towards rape victims, how poorly it works. Therefore, blowing up the black box scandal could have been considered as a lack of loyalty towards the government, state, and Yamaguchi was also trying to imply in his emails that he was taking care of Shiori Ito as he was trying to get her a job and help her. He was a kind of authority figure. The connection between Confucianism dates back to times of feudal Japan. In Neo-Confucian thought, the woman was fully subordinated to the male representatives of the family. In her teenagers, her father played a dominant role, her husband, and later, of course, her sons. Also father-in-law after marriage, and when she became a widow, usually it was the eldest son. As a younger wife, she was also subordinate to her mother-in-law, who managed the household. The situation improved with the in-laws when they reached a ripe age and full power starting in the next generation. However, Japanese women have much more freedom now, it has to be emphasized. Taking care of the house does not mean full-time work, especially in large cities, and the situation is gradually progressing. Years ago, it was saying that the woman ought to leave her job after giving birth to a child. Today, more and more women are coming back to their work and pursuing career in Japan. This is also one of the initiatives being implemented by the previously mentioned Prime Minister Shinzo Abe as part of his Abenomics, which is an economic program to pull Japan out of inflation. However, women are still being hugely stigmatized for getting involved with any kind of situation that can be perceived as a scandal, because in this way it violates so-called dignity of her family and of herself and the whole household. It is often highlighted also in the J-pop and K-pop industry. We also want to provide data which can contribute to the problem of rape in Japan. As you can see on the slide, according to Japanese institution called Gender Equality Bureau Cabinet, only 1.1% of rape cases are being reported to the police. However, it doesn't mean that it happens so rarely in situations so good in Japan. It's closely related to the fact that many victims never decide to go to the police and report. Shiori Ito, while describing her case, mentioned how many policemen told that it happens all the time, happens very often, but they can't do much in this situation. In 2015, only 8.1% of people in police structures in Japan were women, showing that the victim of the rape is at all times surrounded by men, and Ito mentions as well that she had to repeat her story numerous times with very intimate details, which of course psychologically can reinforce the trauma. These are only a few reasons why Japanese women don't report rape cases. Change the system may result in higher detectability of rape in Japan. While researching this topic, we encountered an issue which we refer to as the question of gender-based violence. Researching the problem of rape in Japan doesn't differ much from researching the issue of rape in general in patriarchal structures. The problem of man-based hierarchy coming from Confucianism can be an answer to why this is happening, but at the same time, it may only deepen the differences between Eastern and Western cultures. Researching this problem led to reading about how hierarchy in jails is being structured through rape, and in this case, the gender does not play a vital part. Same can be said about the war rape that can involve both men and women. It is important to develop more research about Japanese issue of rape, while at the same time staying very mindful about it. On this particular slide, we've decided to put some crucial statistics from Japan regarding the perception of consent itself. As you can see on the slide, numbers can be quite worrying, especially in the context of Ito's experience. Drinking alcohol with a man or being in a state of intoxication in a man's company is considered by many Japanese men as a sort of implied consent to a sexual intercourse. Not to mention that eating a meal in each other's company is perceived as consenting to sex by more than 10% of respondents. The problem appears to be present at many levels of human interactions, and as you can see, none of the things listed on the slide could be directly marked as sexually suggestive in any way and would appear as neutral if there were more participants. For example, nevertheless, there is a clear misunderstanding inside, and when women are in definite risk of being assaulted because of the distorted perception of consent. These statistics also enable perpetrators to undermine stories of the victims, as the line between a neutral and sexual interaction seems to be very thin, threatening assaulted women once again.
And here we decided to put some quotations connected with gender-based violence in other parts of the world, as the problem itself is not solely Japanese. Unfortunately, sexual violence occurs as a tool of establishing hierarchy and dominance in many other cultures. The feudal hierarchy in Japan has never been transformed through gradual changes, which can affect Japanese society on a variety of different aspects. Nonetheless, it is fair to refer here as also to the situation outside of Japan. And here we can quote a few fragments from the slide. It has been noted by all investigations of rape in the Eastern Democratic Republic of Congo that all armed groups, state actors in common criminals rape and sexually abuse civilians. A new rape case in India is reported every 20 minutes. And we also wanted to include a famous Weinstein case, which started the Me Too movement, as these are well connected, they are very much connected. And as you could see and hear, there is certainly not a problem of the global south only. Patriarchal structures use similar tools of dominance, but it usually happens to a different extent and coexist with several cultural and historical norms of a particular region. And to conclude our presentation, we would like to propose a few potential ways to improve the situations and make women and sexual violence victims feel safer and more understood, that we try to form on the basis of available data that victims' relations and their personal experiences.
And here you can see the first thing is strengthening legal measures and definitions of rape, improving already existing support system, which also I think can be understood quite well from the things that we already mentioned. Raising public awareness of what is consent to somehow also improve the situation on a more social level. International cooperation, especially with countries like Sweden, that has the issue of detecting rape resolved quite well, and it is a kind of authority in this matter. And of course, further research, data collection to analyze and dive into this topic even better. And thank you
very much for your attention.
That's all from us today. Thank you very much.
So thank you everyone for the first session. Now it's time for discussion. So if you have any questions, feel free to ask. I will run to you with the microphone. No, one question.
Well, thank you all very, very much for your presentations. They've been very interesting. I wanted to ask you two, I hope I didn't miss it, and maybe you already told it, but I'm aware that actually in like Japan, in sexual, let's say, role playing, the woman is supposed to make it seem like she doesn't want the sexual intercourse to happen. And I wonder if you may have a way to link it to your findings as well, because it is kind of embedded in their structure of having romantic relationships with each other. Yeah.
Okay, thank you for the question. I would say it's definitely linked to our research, and I think the sort of myth of this implied consent that occurs even when women is resisting is not only strictly Japanese, but it's very much strong there, maybe more than any other cultures. And I think it's greatly influencing this whole perception of consent, as we mentioned. The statistics that we found about the over 20% of men thinking that having a meal is already expressing the interest in sexual interactions. I think this can be linked to this kind of passive idea of women in sexual relationship, that she's supposed to not do anything or resist, but because she wants it somehow. But I think it's quite difficult to reach the roots of such ideas.
I'm thinking about another research of mine, as I'm also writing my master thesis about the sexualized image of Japanese body in popular media. And for example, many of my male respondents tend to sexualize Japanese women when I'm not even asking the question directly. And while conducting the interview, they say how attractive they are, what characteristic Japanese feature they like in them. So, but it never occurred from the other side. And that's a very interesting take, and I think I can agree with you. Yeah. Are you satisfied with our answers?
Yeah.
Thank you.
Sorry, what do you mean by the other side, like from Japanese men?
Oh, I think from Japanese women. Yeah, Japanese women, yeah. The Japanese men, when answering the questionnaire, which doesn't have any question about what features do you find attractive in Japanese women, there is no question, and they still somehow sneak in their answer to it somewhere in the questionnaire. And it doesn't occur in the other direction, because it's mostly men and women.
So any other questions?
Thank you for your wonderful presentation. So I have a question for Pavel. And my question is, could you maybe elaborate a little bit more about your field research methods?
Okay, I'm sorry that I didn't put it in the presentation. I'm planning to conduct maybe 15 to 20 in-depth interviews and informal conversations with these farmers. And I also want to conduct 4 weeks of field work of participant observation in these farm estates. And I would like to work with these farmers and get to know how in daily life this border affects this Polish-Ukrainian border affects them. And since December 2023, I conducted 7 interviews with 5 farmers, 1 mayor, and 1 non-farmer from this region. And 1 participant observation.
Okay, cool. Thanks.
So this question goes to Vera. I was wondering if in these food co-ops, people are also like actually cooking together. you know, because they appreciate the food so much. And I think, like, is there any idea or initiative, let some meet, you know, and cook together, and maybe even the political aspect about it could also be like showing different dishes from different countries with these specific.
Yes, thanks. Yes, this is actually the case. So in some of the visits at the food co-ops, so in one they described that during summer they're having breakfast together in front of their storage room. So they put tables and chairs outside and have breakfast with the products from the food co-op. And there was another case in a different food co-op. They were just introducing that that they eat together in the plenum meetings. So these are meetings where people or they have for organization purposes. So they meet and talk about different issues in the food co-op. And in the plenum I visited, they discussed about that it would be nice to eat together actually, but because there's no big kitchen, there's no possibility to really cook together, they suggested that always one member cooks something and brings it, and then everybody eats together. So yeah, so and also in the plenum meetings, food has really a prominent role. So when you come there, you know, somebody brought some juice that they made themselves, and everybody comments on the juice, and so it's really very prominent in the practices. Yeah, thanks.
I have a similar question for Vera. I was also interested in the kind of like shared community aspect that could be possible. So I was wondering if in the food co-ops you went to, if there was like a shared space where people from the community could just sit, or like tables or things, because maybe it could contribute to like the emotional feeling of local.
Yeah, they have those small storage rooms, or at least those I visited have those rooms, and it depends on how much space there is. So in two of the food co-ops, there was enough space, so they had some tables and benches and chairs and stuff, so they could sit there. In one, it was just not possible because there wasn't enough space. They regularly meet them in the pub nearby, as I found. And but it surprised me a little bit because it's all very functional. So the whole storage room is really there to store the food, to distribute the food, and everything is full of, you know, there are signs everywhere, you know, put this here, don't put this there, you know, wash this before you put this here. So it's really, it's not a place that is very comfortable, I would say. So it really also surprised me because I thought, well, there's a community aspect and maybe it's a little bit more cozy, but it's rather functional. And the food is everywhere, like prominent and stored in the shelves and everything. Yeah. So,
Thank you. So, any questions? Well, if not, then thank you once again for our first presenters for the first session, and we will meet us again at 1:30 after the lunch break. Thank you.